A British and Irish Lions tour for 2025, folks. The fixtures are already out. You can expect a lot of marketing on stuff to buy, tickets and gear and whatnot between now and a couple of years away. But what a good bit of news, man. After the last Lions tour was, empty stadiums. Could have been better. It was during the pandemic. It was impressive that they actually got the thing going. But just looking at an actual Lions tour with travelling fans and whatnot is something to look forward to after the World Cup, which is coming much sooner than this Lions tour. But you have 6 non-test matches. The 5 Australian Super Rugby teams are all getting a game. Force kick things off. Reds, Waratahs, Brumbies. Tight turnarounds between all these games. So the guys who are likely to play in the first test matches are probably only going to get maybe 3 games, depending on how they're managed. Some guys might kind of do the quick turnaround, but 28 June, 2nd of July, you only got 4 days, 3 days to the next game, 4 days to the next game. But there is one little bit of a spicy meatball in terms of the fixtures list, and that's the Anzac team. I'm calling it an Anzac team. It's just called like an Australian and New Zealand invitational team. So, Anzac team. Australia and the New Zealand players. So, you would imagine it will be selected from the best players not in the Wallabies, although it would not be beyond the realms of possibility for Eddie Jones to pull some kind of, outside the box thinking to potentially get some Wallabies released. Like, remember the South African A team in the build up to the tests for the last Lions tour was pretty much just the Springboks team. So a bit of outside the box thinking may go there, and then some New Zealand players who are not with the All Blacks potentially. So you could get a really cracking team there, depending on which guys are made available. And interestingly, there's a good 7 days between that 12th of July match and the 19th of July match, which is the first test. So probably the strongest looking Lions team, potentially up against a bunch of All Blacks and Wallabies guys. As I said, depending on who's made available. If it's a bunch of kind of, guys who are already out of the Wallaby squad or, a bit too young for the Wallaby squad, it may not quite have the same oomph about it, but on paper anyway, it looks like it could be a tasty one. There's that Rebels game here between the first and second test that none of the Lions guys would want to be playing in, because if you're playing in that game, you are in all likelihood not going to be playing in the tests, and then the regular kind of second and third tests to round things off. They are being played, the test matches, at Suncorp, which is a bit of a fortress for the Wallabies. The MCG for the second one, which is not a traditional rugby ground, but boy does it have a lot of seats, so that could be a great atmosphere. The All Blacks are playing the Wallabies there in the Rugby Championship in a week or so. And then the Olympic Park in, it's got a sponsor's name now, I forget what it is, but the big Olympic Stadium in Sydney for the third one for a potential decider. Fingers crossed, it's another big old kind of 80,000 seater. So yeah, fingers crossed we could get some pretty good Lions atmospheres with the travelling fans, which we missed out on last time. The Anzac game is going to be played in Adelaide, which is, I guess, a kind of a random choice, but I guess the fact that Canberra, the ACT's represented, New South Wales, Queensland, Western Australia and Victoria are all represented with their Super Rugby games, it maybe makes sense to take the one game, which is not a test, which is not a Super Rugby team, to a state which otherwise wouldn't have a game. So, yeah, folks, there you go. It is one game less than the 2017 tour, which I think had one extra game to start with because, remember, Warren Gatland wanted to give the guys a bit of extra time to prep. So that's the kind of, I think, best one to compare it to, compared to the COVID-affected last one, which I think had the same amount of tests, although the Lions did play Japan at home before they left for South Africa in that one. So it is kind of slightly rejigged. There's no international opponent. I mean, there's probably time for them to insert one. It'd be nice to see the Lions take on maybe a Japan or a Fiji or someone like that prior to getting over to Australia. But for now, that is the fixtures list. You guys let us know what you reckon. Are you already booking in your annual leave and your tickets? Because it's been a wee while since anybody has been, as a fan, on a Lions tour. But still a couple of years to go. Small matter of the Rugby World Cup between now and then. You guys let us know your thoughts. And I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.